Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to my channel. If you are returning, thank you so much. I love you guys. And if you are new here, hi, my name is Bitsy. I post new videos every Wednesday and every Friday. It would mean the world to me if you subscribe to my channel down below. So in my last video, I explained eyeshadow for beginners, where I also told you guys what brushes to use, what the difference between different brushes are, and also how to blend. And the feedback I got from that video was incredible, so thank you guys so much. But today I wanted to come on here and give you guys more helpful and useful tips, more about your base. So all of your face makeup, from primer, moisturizer, foundation, concealer, powder, all of that good stuff. As you guys know, I am here to break down the basic things. Yes, there are a lot of videos out there on YouTube already, but I really like to just break it down and simplify it for beginners and for people who are new to makeup and just trying to figure it out. And I would also love to throw a quick disclaimer out there that it is not my way or the highway. I am not a professional makeup artist. These are just my personal tips and tricks, the things that I have learned that work for me. I am in no way, shape, or form saying that if you are not doing your makeup exactly how I'm doing it, that you are doing it wrong. If you do it in a different order, if you apply your makeup differently, if you don't like how I'm doing my makeup, that is completely valid. What you do and what works for you is totally okay. Keep doing your thing, dude. But I am still going to break it down and show you guys what I find helpful and what I have found works the best for me. And hopefully I can help as many of you guys as possible figure out how to get that flawless base. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump right in. And we're going to start by moisturizing our face. So I am using my e.l.f. Happy Hydration Cream. This moisturizer is incredible, especially for people who have acne prone or oily skin. But you should always moisturize your skin before you start with your makeup. I completely forgot to mention this, but you also always want to start with a clean base. So wash your face before you ever start putting on makeup. It will just help your skin look so much better and smoother and help your makeup apply the best it possibly can. So just like that, steps 1 and 2 are done. Wash your face and apply moisturizer. Those are the first 2 steps, and those should always be the first 2 steps of doing makeup. Okay, and the next step, we're going to apply some primer. Is primer necessary? Primer is not one of those things that's like it's a must-have. You can still apply your makeup and it can still turn out beautifully if you don't use primer, but primer does help your makeup last. It helps cover up little pores. It kind of blurs your pores, helps your makeup stay and stick over any spots or redness like acne. Like for me, if I apply primer right here, it will kind of give my face a little tacky feel so my foundation lays nicely over it. And if you have a lot of problems with your foundation looking cakey and dry and crusty, try using a primer. That could really save you and really help. Primer, I always just put it on just like moisturizer. I just squirt a little bit on my hands and I just rub it into my face just like moisturizer. Primer and moisturizer are not the same thing. Moisturizer is for your skin, it nourishes your skin, and it gives it the moisture that it needs, just like it says. Primer is a base for your makeup to lay on top of. It helps your makeup last, and it helps give you a nice tacky, sticky feel, so then your makeup will stick to it and actually stay put. So there are a lot of different ways to apply your foundation. You can use your fingers, you can use a brush, you can use a beauty blender. My absolute favorite way to make it look nice and flawless, nice and blended out without any streaks or without any clumpiness or cakiness, I like to apply it with a beauty blender. I always get it wet first, and if you don't already get your beauty blender wet before you use it, get it wet first, squish it a little bit under the sink, make sure that it's nice and wet, wring it out a little bit, and now use it to apply your foundation. It will go on so much easier and so much smoother. So now we're gonna do our foundation. I'm gonna pop a little bit of foundation on my beauty blender, and I'm just gonna dot it all over my face. And I'm just going to spread that foundation out, just doing little tapping motions, very light, just tap, and blending it out in circles, just kind of moving that product around as much as possible. You really want to work with the shape of your beauty blender. Like I use this pointy tip part to help me get right underneath my eyes and to get any of these small little creases like in my nose area. So in this video, I mostly just want to do some explaining, giving some tips, talking about techniques. I'm not necessarily going to be talking about the products that I'm using, but showing you more so how to do this and how to make it work regardless of what product you are using. But if you do want more information on the products that I use and my favorite products, Go ahead and check out my other videos because I use the same products in all of them. Basically, I have a lot of personal favorites. So if you look at any of my other tutorials, I will probably be using the exact same products. So it really only takes me about 1 minute to evenly blend my foundation all the way throughout my face. But I do want to remind you guys, you always want to blend into your ears and down to your neck, just so if there's any distinct color difference between your face and your neck, that will not be visible to anybody else that sees you. Guys, I get an insane amount of questions about cakey foundation and how to avoid it. If you don't know what I mean by cakey, it's when all of your foundation kind of starts looking dry and a little bit crusty. It all kind of clumps together. You can see your pores and you can see so much texture in your skin, and it just looks overly dry. Your foundation does not look smooth and flawless like it's supposed to. One thing that really helps you avoid this, I know I already said it, but always use a wet beauty blender. I found that whenever I use a brush to apply my foundation, it is so much more likely to get cakey than if I used a wet beauty blender, because this is still adding moisture to your skin as you're applying your foundation. Cakiness tends to happen whenever you are applying either way too much product and you're just coating it layer over layer over layer, then your skin will start kind of looking cakey. If you put on way too much powder, and also if you are using a mattifying foundation, it's more likely to look cakey. So anything that's really stripping your skin of its moisture is going to make your skin look cakey. So my main thing is keeping your skin nice and hydrated throughout the makeup process. This is one really good example of a matte versus a dewy finish foundation. These Maybelline Fit Me foundations are my absolute favorite. So whenever I'm feeling a little bit more oily, if my skin is acting up, I will use the matte foundation. But lately, my absolute favorite to use is the Dewy and Smooth foundation, because they're basically the same foundation, they have the same coverage, they both work incredible, and they're very inexpensive drugstore makeup. Real quick, I'm going to give an explanation what the difference between matte and dewy is. Matte is whenever your skin looks completely dry. Like, it's like my arm right now. My arm is just completely matte. There's no shine to it. There's no like liquid or hydrating look to it. It's just completely matte. And if I added, say, some moisturizer or lotion to my arm and it got shiny and it looked a little more glowy and greasy looking, that is going to be more dewy. When I started with makeup, I think the biggest mistake that I made was thinking my face always had to be matte. Don't get me wrong, if that's the look that you prefer, go for it, all power to you, but I have discovered over time that I like how my skin looks better, and my skin looks smoother and fresher and more natural looking whenever it's dewy. So after foundation, I like to go ahead and start with concealer. Concealer I put in about 4 specific spots. Number 1 being right underneath my eyes, and you need a lot less concealer than what some people make it look like in videos. You put it under your eyes to brighten those areas, because especially if you don't get a lot of sleep, usually you have dark circles under your eyes. This will brighten your eyes, make you look more awake, make your skin look a little bit nicer and more radiant. I put it right in the top of my forehead, right here, and right here. And I'm just going to take my same beauty blender that I use for foundation, and I'm just going to blend it out. I'm just going to go back and forth like this and drag my concealer out to extend right outside of my eye. But I really try my best to keep my concealer in the areas that I put it instead of blending it out way too far. So one good tip for that is if you're using one side of your beauty blender to apply the concealer and blend it out, once you hit the point where you don't want it to blend out any further, flip it around, use the other side that doesn't have concealer on it, and then kind of just blend it into your foundation like that. That's why I stopped my whole face from being covered in concealer. Like my whole forehead, I could keep blending this out and going so far up with the white, but I'm going to go ahead and flip my beauty blender over, and then it will stop blending out, and it will just kind of blend in and melt into my foundation. But my whole forehead's not going to turn white now. And on your nose, I really just like to keep my concealer right on the front, the bridge of my nose. I don't blend it down to the sides. I just blend it up and down like this. I'm going to show you. I just blend it like this. I don't blend it on the sides of my nose. I blend it just up and down like that. And just like that, concealer is done. Concealer is usually quick and easy. It's not that complicated, and there's not much more to it other than that. Now the next step is powder, and for a beginner, this can be confusing. What is the difference between a loose and a pressed powder? Loose powder is the powder that if I just blow on this, it will go everywhere. It's the powder that kind of just looks like flour. And a pressed powder is exactly what it sounds like. It's basically a loose powder, but it's pressed down so it's all in one pan. If I flip it upside down, it won't go anywhere. It's all just stuck to it. They both work beautifully. One is not better than the other. Like I said before, It is genuinely up to you which one you prefer to use. I like to use a press powder. I find it's a little bit easier because all I do is just stamp my brush right in it and I just set my areas that are a little bit too oily or shiny. Oftentimes you will see that people use loose powder with their beauty blender to set underneath their eyes to bake and set any places that they concealed. And so baking is basically just leaving powder on those areas so then it sucks all of the moisture out of it, dries it all the way out, and brightens your skin. So there's kind of a hint of that powder left over that makes it brighter and whiter or more yellow. So whatever color your powder is, that like the residue of the powder gets left on a little bit after you bake because you leave it on there for so long. I personally don't like that because like I said, it sucks all of the moisture out, and that's kind of how my skin starts to look cakey and my foundation will start to crack. I prefer to keep my skin as hydrated and dewy looking as possible, like I said. So if that's your cup of tea, go for it. But like I said, I prefer to use a pressed powder because I feel like I have a little bit more control over it and I can go a lot more light-handed with a pressed powder than I can with a loose powder. So to set my face, I always use a big flat top brush. You can use whatever brush you want. If you have a fluffy brush, that works too. But I like the flat one because I can really just pack it in and stamp it exactly where I want it. That's why I find a flat brush helpful for this. But I just kind of tap it in to the powder, and then especially where we concealed, because my concealer is so hydrating, it's really, really shiny. My cheeks get really glossy, my forehead looks glossy. Anywhere that gets oily on your skin, that's where you kind of want to really press in some powder. You don't need to use too much, but even just tapping a little bit like this is how you set your face and make your makeup lock in and stay where it's at. Because all of the liquid products, if you rubbed your face, they will move around and they will smear. But once you lock it in with powder by setting your face, that's what powder does. It locks it in. Your foundation will not go anywhere now. So I do this everywhere because I want to lock my foundation in all the way around my entire face. And notice, like I said, I am tapping. I'm tap, 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 tap. I do that a lot and I just do quick little tapping motions all around in big circles, make sure I cover my whole face, but I am never dragging my brush. I'm never just sitting there going like this because that will move the base around. That will move your foundation. That will move your concealer. I want to keep everything exactly where I have it and just make sure it stays where it's at. So that's why I tap instead of rub. One big thing for me is that I always, always, always get creasing. So that means basically whenever I have concealer or foundation under my eyes or on my eyelids, where my skin folds, there will just be a line of like greasy looking foundation, it looks like. If you know what creasing looks like and you deal with it, I'm just going to tell you what I do to help with that. So where my under eye folds right here, I usually pull this down or I look in a different direction and I can see that there's a line. So I will gently just blend that out with my beauty blender, and as soon as that gets blended out, I will set it with powder just to make sure that that liquid doesn't crease anymore. And same thing with my eyelids. Right where your eyelid folds, usually if you have foundation or concealer on it, it will crease. So just blend it out with your beauty blender real quick and then set it with powder and then you should be fine. Okay, let's talk about bronzing and contouring and what the heck is the difference between the two. Real quickly, I just want to show you guys, this is my favorite contour palette. This is the Kat Von D Shade and Light contour palette. As you can see, there are a bunch of different colors. As you can see, this top row are light colors and this bottom row are dark colors. And so basically what you do with this is you fake dimension in your face. All of my face is basically just one flesh color right now, but after I play with light and dark colors, I can make my cheekbones look more intense and more sharp, and I can make my forehead look smaller, make my face look skinnier, make my jawline look sharper, just by adding a dark color to make it look like a shadow. And the light colors, just like concealer and powder, like I said before, these are used to set underneath your eyes, to give your your nose, your forehead, your chin, and like right underneath your contour right here on your cheek. It really just helps cut those and make them look clean and sharp to make it look even more heightened. In case nobody has told you this before, bronzer is a product. This is called a bronzer. This is also bronzer. Bronzer is the product that is in it. They are the same thing. Contouring is literally just the word for the action of what we are doing with your bronzer. I genuinely feel like the misconception is so confusing to so many people what the difference is between bronzer and contour. Genuinely, they're the same thing. The only difference is that bronzer is the name of the product that you're using. It's literally the thing. This is bronzer. And then contouring is just what you're doing with your bronzer. It's that you're carving your cheekbones, that you're doing this and that you're playing with dimension. Makeup artists, if you are watching this video, correct me if I'm wrong. Please try to correct me and come for me if this is wrong information. But seriously, like, that is the only explanation that makes sense to me. Because I have both things and they do the exact same thing. So if you just have a bronzer, guess what? You have exactly what you need to contour with. Like I said before, I'm not a professional. So if you want to take my word for it, take my word for it. This is what I believe and this is what I find true. But you know what? Believe whatever you want to believe. If you think they're two different things, that's okay. I've always found it confusing myself. Anyways, continuing with bronzer now, we're going to go ahead and grab an angled brush like this. This is what I find the best and the easiest to contour and bronze with. I'm going to go ahead and just do a couple little taps into my palette, not too much, and I'm going to go ahead and tap off any excess powder just so there's not too much on the brush whenever we go in with it. And I'm going to suck my cheeks in like that. I'm going to find my cheekbones and just go up and down on them really lightly. I start right where my hair starts, right here, right above my ear, and I'm just up and down. I'm not pressing too hard at all. I'm going very, very light, just like this. Very, very gentle and very, very light. So I just like to go up and down. And after I kind of have that line where I want it, now I'm going to diffuse it or blend it out, which just means really lightly going in little circles, just so this isn't just a harsh, straight line, because that's not natural looking. It does look natural though if you just kind of blend it in just a little bit, both at the top and the bottom. I bring my bronzer all the way up to my temples and all the way up to the top of my forehead. I have said this a million times and I will continue to say it. We do not want harsh lines anywhere whenever it comes to our face makeup. I do not want a harsh line of contour right there because in real life, that's not going to look very flattering. And if you're new to makeup, I know you probably do have questions about where do you start and stop with contour and bronzer? Like, where does it begin and where does it end? Like, are you just supposed to stop in the middle of your cheek and have this ending line right here? I think my kind of rule of thumb is where my smile lines are when I smile, I try to kind of stop bronzing to like right there. But like that doesn't mean that you can't still blend it into your mouth area. But as you go further down, start kind of picking up your brush a little bit lighter and blending a lot more gentle and a lot softer right in these areas, just because you don't want this area to be dark necessarily, but you do want it to still have some color and be a little bit more blended out. You can go back and you can add as little or as much bronzer as you want. I like to kind of go with one light layer first, and then if I find that, you know, my forehead looks a little too white, I'll go ahead and tap a little bit more on my forehead, and I'll throw a little bit on my nose. I don't usually nose contour, but I do just like to throw some bronzer on my nose to warm it up a little bit. And I know that we like to conceal under our eyes and set it and make it look bright and white, but I personally really do not like how it looks whenever my cheeks are so dark and then right under my eyes is white, like so much lighter than my cheeks. I like to blend my bronzer in right underneath my eyes a little bit just to make that separation a little bit less harsh. All right, guys, next step is blush. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my Milani baked blush and just a little brush like this. This is my favorite brush to use for blush, but you can use whatever brush you like. If you want to use a bigger one, that is totally fine. I just go ahead and smile and pack it right on the apples of my cheeks, like right here and right here. That's where the two big circles are whenever you smile. For me, I have giant cheeks, so it's very, very noticeable, and it's really easy for me to see where I'm supposed to put my blush. But I do still blend my blush right into my bronzer, so I blend it up my cheeks up here. And I always, this is my personal preference, I like to throw a little bit of blush on my nose just because it makes it look natural and kind of sun-kissed, especially in the summer. I feel like it gives you that cute little tiny bit of a sunburnt type of look, but it looks cute and fun and natural and definitely youthful. Just like anything, all I do is just do little tapping motions like this. I tap it up here. So I like to do kind of a W shape, if that makes sense, like just like that. And so I go all the way up from where my bronzer starts, blend it into my cheeks, blend it up the sides of my nose, and back around. And that's how I apply my blush. In case you were wondering, this is the color Luminoso number 5. This color I think is perfect for exactly what I'm trying to achieve. It's not overpowering or overbearing. It's very, very natural looking. And finally, last but not least, we're gonna go ahead and set our face. I'm using the Makeup Forever Light Velvet Air Setting Spray. So all I'm gonna do, I'm gonna hold it at a nice distance from my face, close my eyes, about 5 or 6 sprays just like that. And then I fan my face till it's dry. In case you don't know what setting spray does, it really just is the final touch. It locks your makeup in. It gives you a little bit of moisture back to your skin, but also make sure that all of your makeup stays exactly where you put it and doesn't move around throughout the day. It will make your makeup last, and that is my favorite step. It just feels so refreshing at the end to throw on a little bit of spray and you're done. But just like primer, is this something that you absolutely need always whenever you do your makeup? No, not necessarily, but if you are trying to get the most out of your makeup and you're trying to get it to last and trying to get the best possible finish for your makeup, yes, I do recommend a setting spray, but is it necessary? No. Alright guys, that is everything I have for your face makeup, and I really hope some of you guys found this video helpful. If you did, give this video a thumbs up and comment down below and tell me what you guys thought. And while you're there, if you're not already, make sure that you subscribe to my channel. I post new videos every Wednesday and every Friday, and it would mean the absolute world to me. Anyways guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have an incredible day and go do something fun. And if you're lazy like me and you don't feel like leaving your house or leaving your bed, go ahead and feel free to watch my next video. Mwah.
She's a Mona Lisa. Everyone's lining up to see her. There must be something